Welcome to Marketing Brew Weekly, where we dissect the trends and strategies that are surprising and delighting the marketing industry. I'm Jenny Wynn, reporter at Marketing Brew.
I'm Kelsey Sutton, editor.
And I'm Katie Hicks, senior reporter.
Today, babe, the brands are fighting, and the McDonald's CEO has gotten himself into a little bit of a burger tizzy, and the other burger brands are biting back. But really, what is the point of all this brand rivalry talk? Let's talk about it.
So the McDonald's CEO is getting kind of flamed right now. Have you guys seen the video of him eating the big arch burger?
Big bite for a big arch.
So when we were actually doing research for this episode, I realized I had not seen it, and I have still not watched it. I've watched reaction videos, I've seen stills, I've read the articles, but I've not watched it because I want to watch it live with you guys. So you get my unfiltered reaction.
Well, it's set up a chain reaction of videos from burger executives, which we will also get into as we talk about the pros and the cons of engaging in a brand rivalry. But before we get into that, do you guys ever feel like you're not getting enough support?
Gosh, last night my mattress was killing me. It was just not doing the trick.
I think she means the kind of support you get from Disney Campaign Manager. It's the always there platform that makes spinning up streaming campaigns feel straightforward, not experimental, so agencies can move quickly without sacrificing guidance.
Plus, with their human-guided support, they can answer any questions you might have 24/7.
They've simplified the media buying process, making it easy to set up, launch, measure, and optimize streaming TV campaigns across Disney+, Hulu, and ESPN. That way, you can reach the right audiences, make adjustments on the fly, and easily track performance.
Get started today at DisneyCampaignManager.com. That's DisneyCampaignManager.com.
Okay, let's get into it. I want to start by watching this video so we can really get into brand rivalries.
I can't
and why we
wait.
do it. But we know in the control room we have the McDonald's CEO a clip of it. So let's roll. Let's watch it.
First of all, let's try to get this thing. I don't even know how to attack it. Got so much to it. Oh, there's also some crispy onions on here as well. I see those kind of coming out. All right, the moment of truth.
Oh, that's...
That is so good.
Just wait.
That's a big bite for a big arch.
That is...
Is it a big bite? Was that a big bite?
Kelsey, tell us.
That's a small to me. That's a hesitant bite.
A mini baby bite.
Yeah.
We didn't show the part of the clip where he calls it the product, which was also getting quite a bit of backlash. People are like, are you robotic? Are you human? Who calls a burger a product?
I think, okay, here's the thing. Not to go being a CEO defender on this podcast, but I do appreciate being like, how do I do this? I don't know if that belongs in the final cut.
Totally.
Do you know what I mean? I think it's totally fine to be like, wow, this burger is, and then maybe we cut some.
Maybe we do another take. Yep.
etc. So I really do have questions about sort of how this got. It's not offensive. You know what I mean?
No,
it's totally fine, but it's kind of like, this feels like a first take.
It's just
feels
the
like
fact
a first take.
that he follows it up with, that's a big bite for a big arch. Like, obviously a written line, like for a purpose, and it's just not a big bite, which like you would think that the social media team, the marketing team, someone who obviously reviewed this clip a million times would be like, wait, that's actually not a big bite. And the line doesn't really work.
And there's something, okay, and now we have to talk about everything we've seen since then. So this, obviously, it's so unsurprising to me that this has gotten the reaction that it's gotten, but now the brands are putting out reaction videos. So I think Burger King president Tom Curtis, they posted an old clip of him taking a huge bite of a Burger King burger, and I think it was on TikTok, the caption was, thought we'd replay this. Wendy's US president posted something showing a giant bite. I feel like this is a little bit of a sidebar. What a funny thing to sort of have it be. It feels like now it's like a masculinity challenge. Like, who can take the biggest bite of the burger?
Yes. Well, I think Katie and I were talking about this before we started recording, but like I think part of the Burger King reaction too has been like, it's funny that they say it's like they didn't film it in reaction. They just had this ready to go.
He just is always eating burgers and we're just always filming it.
But part of it too is like, he's kind of like looks good as he's like taking this bite, and people are like like picking up on that.
Yeah, I've seen people be like, that's a sexy bite. It's like, well, do we need to go that far?
And we're comparing like the CEOs and like things like whether they like literally look good taking the bite.
Right.
Which, is that a value? I don't know.
Well, I mean, we're seeing it even from small chains too. Freddy's, I guess, is a Midwestern fast food chain that they posted their CEO. He's sitting in his car eating it. I think there's an element of like, look how relatable our CEO or our president or our executive is. Like, they eat burgers just like you. They love them. They're actually familiar with the product, not acting like it's their first time eating a burger.
Not to defend the any CEOs here. Actually, I'm going to criticize the Freddy CEO a little bit because he hasn't called it the product, but he actively says that he's having an LTO, and he says it like 14 times in the video, which is a limited time offer. But no one speaks like that in real life. Like,
No.
what is this?
Such corporate speak is inherently not relatable.
Which I guess, like, perhaps because it was a reaction to McDonald's, like, it was a bit, like, he was making fun of the product from the original video. But, I mean, there's just so much fodder here, and, like, bringing your CEO to the social media stage like this is just putting them up for a lot of people to nitpick and see what they like and see what they don't like. And I feel like a big reaction to it has also been, like, we, the people, don't relate to rich CEOs, which is an interesting reaction that's come out of it. How do you guys feel about it?
I think that's a huge thing that like fueled the backlash to the McDonald's videos. It's like, not only does he refer to it as the product and seem like he's not familiar with it, but I think it just highlights like, this guy doesn't eat this food and yet he wants to peddle it to the masses. He wants all of us to eat this, but why isn't he eating it too in a way that's normal?
Right.
Yeah, and I feel like the relatability kind of question is such an interesting dynamic that we're seeing, but it's kind of a tale as old as time in the burger wars, which is a term that was coined, I think, in the 1970s. Anytime there's a really saturated market, you see sort of brands taking swings at one another, looking at opportunities. I think that if you want to get in on the making fun of the McDonald's CEO to try to eke out a little bit more market share, I think a lot of brands are looking at that and saying, well, we have a CEO who's better suited for camera. We got to get them on social. And it sort of seems like a little low level lift to tap into that attention and say, ooh, like now if we're comparing them side by side, who's better? It's just such an interesting kind of reinterpretation of this long running dynamic that we've seen among fast food chains. But I do want to mention, I think Jack in the Box posted something which is very funny. It's not their CEO, it's just their Jack in the Box mascot, but it's just a regular person with kind of the Jack in the Box round face.
Snowman? Is that what their mascot is? A snowman?
I actually don't know.
Scary.
Maybe.
Way.
No, I think it must be the toy that comes out of the box when you.
Oh, in a jacket. Got it.
Yeah,
got it.
but I've never seen something like that in my life.
Yeah.
So.
It's unique for sure.
They also posted another video where it was like, CEOs just shouldn't be on camera ever. And then they had the Jack in the Box do a thirst trap. So they're taking the stance of, we're better than this trend because we're just not going to engage with it in the way that other brands are at all.
But they are.
They're engaging with the trend.
In a slightly wacky kind of way.
But isn't this such a perfect example of like in the attention economy, like you gotta say something. I think a lot of brands feel the pressure. They have to say something. They have to react. They have to respond. They have to take advantage of this moment. But then because the easiest way or easiest route is a little dig, maybe not super direct. I don't think any of these brands are saying, we're not like the McDonald's CEO, but it's sort of a wink and a nod. Like if you know, you know. Yeah, exactly. But then we kind of get in this weird dynamic where it's like, okay, now the brands are picking fights with one another or like being shady or whatever. And I think that tone is sometimes relatable. I think that some brands have gotten been very successful at kind of finding a little voice there. At the same time, I also think it ends up being a little bit weird. It's like it's some account manager fighting with another account manager, and at the end of the day, you represent $1 billion corporation or something. It can feel a little. So I think there's just some interesting pros and cons, but maybe we could dig into that. Katie, what do you think are kind of the pros here? Like, and where else have we seen this? Because this is definitely not
the first time.
And it's not limited to fast food brands or QSR.
We saw this recently with the Super Bowl. I mean, like Pepsi's ad had the Coca-Cola polar bear in it. So that was kind of engaging a brand rivalry there. Olipop and Poppy are another soda rivalry that we see. We saw this with last year's Super Bowl, actually, where Poppy, when they were going through their vending machine, controversy, Olipop was in the comments on videos kind of like fanning the flames, saying, yeah, they spend so much money on these vending machines.
They spread not entirely correct information?
They were spreading some stats that ended up not being true when I talked to Poppy. So, yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you see these brands kind of, to your point, Kelsey, like kind of engaging in these kinds of wars of different types, but people have either positive reactions or negative depending on like how it comes across. Like with Olipop, some people are like, hey, is that true what you're saying? I don't quite know.
But some people also eat it up, right? They like see Olipop in the comments and they like love Poppy, or they like Olipop and they're like, it's so funny that like this little soda brand is being petty and like they're just like me because I also have silly little petty grudges or whatever. And it kind of like humanizes the brand, and kind of what you were saying, Kelsey, it like gives them this tone. But you're right that I think it can quickly veer into like either cringy territory or just like people don't really like that you're being a little bit mean or a little bit petty or literally spreading false information if you like take the time to look into whether what they're saying is actually true or not. So there is definitely some inherent risk there. I think it all comes back to, Katie, you mentioned this in our prep meeting about how Wendy's Twitter kind of started this like sassy little social media tone.
Clapping back.
Yes, clapping back and like being like unhinged before like Duo kind of took the unhinged mascot trophy or whatever it is. And I feel like it was really fun when they first did it, but now so many brands do it and like do it in kind of the same way that I don't quite feel like it has the same impact anymore.
Yeah.
I think you have to be kind of creative about it. Like you have to like think about it in a way that's not just clapping back. And I think with the burger wars here, I mean, so many brands have responded that it's like, if everybody's doing it, do you stand out? Like similar to Wendy's Twitter, once every brand took on a sassy tone, it was like, okay, everybody's doing this. This isn't unique anymore.
Yeah. I do think there's something interesting about the sort of positioning any brand as like, pick your side, pick your favorite. It's sort of, I think that engaging in a rivalry of any kind, whether it's, I think about the Pepsi Super Bowl ad, the soda wars have been around for a long time too. This isn't a totally new dynamic, but whenever you engage in that, it kind of prompts the consumer to pick a side, right? It's like, okay, if you saw Poppy's influencer campaign and then you see Olipop in the comments or posting something else being like, we didn't do that. Even if you saw that, and I remember seeing that and going, gosh, that's like kind of seems like a crazy response from Olipop. It made me not like the brand as much. Not that I have a huge affinity for either of those products, but I remember kind of having it was distasteful to me, but it made me then kind of think, okay, which brand will I choose the next time I buy one of these? And I think that that's exactly what it prompts. So it's even McDonald's could be benefiting from this sort of thing because somebody goes, well, that was crazy, but I still like McDonald's and that burger, I'll eat it better than the CEO does, right? It kind of prompts somebody to pick their side or sort of pledge their brand loyalty in some way. And so the more brands that kind of get in on it, then it kind of prompts a consumer to think that all those brands are maybe equal to one another and worthy of a comparison or, worthy of claiming, well, this one's my favorite, ride or die for me, the consumer. So I think a lot of brands can kind of benefit from it, even if you're not McDonald's, even if you're not Burger King. It's like any burger brand, there's sort of an opportunity there.
I think it really creates an identity, right? Like if you are in this like head-to-head battle with another brand, like it creates two sides, it creates two teams and two identities that like hopefully a large audience will relate to one side or the other. And whether it's burgers or soda or whatever it is, like I do think that like these like personality traits get ascribed to the brand. And then if you have those personality traits, you're like, oh, like Poppy really gets me, like McDonald's CEO. Like I also take weird tiny bites of my burger or whatever it is. Like it does give you something to potentially relate to, which I do think is the point of like, I think so many brands like want a strong brand identity. And it's almost like when you engage with another brand that is like in direct competition with you, it's like a little shortcut to another brand identity to be like, well, in this particular battle, like I'm an Olipop girl, I'm a Poppy girl, or whatever it is, and then you'll think about it the next time you're buying something. I think about it too, you said it's like, it's also not just in like QSR goods. Like the other example I think of is the like Mac versus Dell. Like I'm a Mac, I'm a Dell, I'm a PC ad. It's like, that was literally the whole point of the ad, and people know that campaign so well because people related. People picked a side. They were like, I'm an Apple person, I'm a Mac person.
And it's not even really, in the case of that, which is such a good kind of historical classic example, it's really not even about the product. It's about like the type of person who uses it, which is so much about brand identity, right? It's I'm the type of person, I'm sleek and I'm not, you know, I'm not nerdy. Exactly.
I'm wearing khaki pants.
Yeah.
Right. And I do think that the social voice of, this brand is cool, or it has a cool president, or the executives are cool and relatable, that again kind of helps build a brand image. And again, you might not even associate that when you go into Burger King at the end of the day, but it's somewhere deep in your subconscious. So I'm so not surprised that we're seeing so much reaction here. I really wonder what McDonald's is going to do. I was telling both of you before the show, I feel like McDonald's has an opportunity to do a banger of a commercial where they're like, eat our stuff however you want. If you want to eat our burger with a fork and a knife, we don't, like
tiny bites makes it last longer.
Nibble around the edge.
Or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's too much. Maybe that's like embracing it too much. But I
think so.
Well, I think McDonald's is already seeing an increase in sales from all of this. I think you could argue that like with a brand rivalry, it's kind of like a rising tide lifts all ships. Like everybody that's involved is seeing some sort of publicity from this. And like, is this a matter of like all press is good press? Like even if you're engaging this and like maybe you come across as petty or, like you're just responding to something as opposed to having your own strategy. It's like, well, everybody's kind of like getting some publicity out of this. And I talked to a professor about this recently with like the Coke Pepsi Super Bowl example, where it's like Coke didn't buy a Super Bowl ad this year. They didn't pay anything. And yet if you ask people now,
they were there.
Yeah. Like, and people, with time might be like, oh no, there was a Coke ad. And like the recall might be in Coke's favor because that's the risk of Pepsi engaging with it and using somebody else's iconography.
Yeah, and literally like bringing their rival into the conversation. I think an important piece of this too is the fact that this particular instance is happening on social, because I think there's a different tone on social. The audience can get more directly involved in the comments and sharing whatever it is. It's also so much less costly. Like you're talking about a Super Bowl ad that obviously costs $1 bajillion. Like it costs nothing to post on social on your own channels. And even like when we talk about the history of like the burger wars and the soda wars and the various brand rivalries that have existed forever, those like primarily happened on TV, and you had to buy television ads, which cost a ton more money than posting on social media. So I think it's interesting that we've kind of taken the brand wars to the social space, because it can blow it up a lot more. Like so many more people can engage, it feels like, than with a TV ad, but it's also so much easier to do. Like anyone can do that.
And also I think that because of that, because it's so easy to do it on social, the speed at which you can make a misstep is also
So
really
true.
amplified.
Yeah.
You think about those old, the number of conversations that the Pepsi team must have had talking about re-engaging in this soda wars, like pick which side, pick which product you like the most. There's so much that has to go into approving that and approving the amount of spend there. But if you have a team that says, let's just film this really quick and we need to get it out right away, there's fewer layers, and teams we talk to all the time are saying we're trying to make our social teams so nimble, et cetera. But I think that also increases the risk of maybe stepping where you don't want to step. Something I think is a really interesting sub dynamic here, or consideration, is like you think about sports rivalries, you think about like some giant team and then some like little dinky team that's like, our biggest rival is giant team X, and they're like I don't think about you at all. And I think that there's a little bit of a risk there, as if you are a smaller player, you trying to get in on this conversation. Somebody's like, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
That kind of is a humbling moment. And you don't necessarily want to be the brand that's like getting pushed out the door.
Yeah.
That's why you have to execute it well. You can't just be like, oh, let's get our CEO out there. Like, is your CEO marketable?
Funny?
Is he a
Yeah.
funny guy? Is he personable? Does he
Or is he weird
build
in the
well?
right way?
Or
that,
she,
like,
you know.
True. CEO.
Thank you. International Women's Month.
It's International Women's Month.
So true. But like, yeah, like it kind of has to like fit the moment or fit the platform, and like the person that you're putting on screen has to make sense, which I think is an interesting evolution of not only this particular element, but I do think that's kind of happening across the board a little bit more, is that big companies in particular are trying to like bring their C-suite into the spotlight and be like, look, rich executives, they're just like you, which no one has ever said that before in their entire lives, but sure, I guess that's what we're doing now.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's something with like, you can't put your like media trained to death executive out there and be like, look, normal person, because I don't know. I mean, some people.
Then he
will
says the
just-
product.
Exactly. Like some people will clock that immediately and go, you've scripted this.
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, I think that that's such an interesting part of this conversation is the C-suite being on full display. Usually you see those executives at conferences, on earnings calls, maybe they're on CNBC or they're on the news to talk about very specific business oriented things.
Amongst their people.
Social is an entirely different beast. You cannot target, you know, the LinkedIn set or the investor set only on social. Like it is out of containment as soon as it's posted because somebody's going to find it and share it with a totally different context.
I saw people defending the McDonald's video online on LinkedIn saying that. They were like, oh, this wasn't directed to the general public. And it's like, well, if you post it to social media, you can't control who's going to see it, and the public inevitably will.
When the general public sees it, they view it as this was for me.
Right.
I mean, when you put it out there, of course it's for anyone. It's the open internet. That's like what it's all about. But yeah, no, you risk a lot by not knowing exactly how people are going to respond. But it's an interesting trend across the industry that we're just like, more people should just be on screen all the time, because how do you do that well? I think this is like a bigger conversation that we can get into at a different point, but like not everyone is made to be on camera, and you're always balancing as a brand account. I feel like brand safety versus like relatability versus like the like natural free flowing state of the internet as it usually is. And then you take a CEO or another C-suite person and you're like, deliver this brand message, but in a nice, cute, fun way that everyone will like on the internet. And it's like, that's not natural to a lot of people. So it's perhaps a training needs to commence on how we take bites on camera.
And charisma is not necessarily associated with business results.
Right.
So like you could be an amazing executive and do exactly what your investors or the board or the company stakeholders want you to do, and you might be totally not charismatic. And that's like in theory, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But it is increasingly sort of social cameras on all the time dynamic. It feels like that's an additional test, an additional hurdle. And I think that's a really interesting byproduct of this. I wonder if we're going to see more brands put their C-suite, in the hot seat or in front of the phone cameras.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll like really think about it before they do it, or if they're just like, whatever, our CEO is kind of fun. Let's just put them out there.
I mean, hey, if they are fun, go for it. But again, don't just be like, what's going to make us relatable? Putting our executives out there unless they have something to offer. And I think that goes back to this like whole rivalry of it all. It's like you see in the videos which ones are getting good reactions, which ones aren't. Like the Freddy's video, that guy got like 6 million views and like 800,000 likes. That's like the biggest video they've ever posted. So like that's great for Freddy's. Now they know that their executive should be on more videos potentially, and he could be a marketing vehicle for them. But maybe the McDonald's CEO needs to sit it out for a little bit.
Or they could just really buy in and just like, if he's down to laugh at himself, I agree, Kelsey. I think that they could make a whole big moment out of this, but it requires a certain level of buy-in, which like comes down to the person. Like, are you down to be made fun of even more? It's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, so I get it. But it reminds me, Katie, of, I know you're working on a story about like employees being kind of like brand representatives, and you're talking to someone fun, which we'll we'll talk about soon. I don't want to ruin the episode, but I'm excited to hear all about that too.
Yeah, and this is a trend that we've seen over the last couple of years too, like social ambassadors being employees. Like Southwest Airlines loves to put their flight attendants on their social channels, and Ulta has a program where their employees can post on their behalf. So like people do want to connect with real people, but it remains to be seen if that's the executives.
Right.
Yeah. But honestly, I gotta say, this whole thing like made me want a burger. Like, you know what I mean? I was kind of like, you know what? Some salty fries.
Yeah,
Like,
benefits everybody.
yeah. So I feel like it's working.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have thoughts on CEOs on camera, or if you want to share your burger bite, send us an email at mkbw@morningbrew.com, which you can also find in the show notes. And we'll catch you next week.